I have, in my study of black leadership, especially in this country, I see one pattern repeating itself. Every black leader who shows black people the true nature of power and how to deal with it is either assassinated, driven into exile, or driven to suicide. And the pattern has not varied from the mysterious disappearance of David Walker, 1829, after his famous appeal. And you can look at this pattern and you see its consistency. W.B. Du Bois died in exile. Monroe Trotter, the famous Boston Brahmin, allegedly fell from the roof of his own house. And he had been walking on that roof for a generation. It was his family home. You tell me a man can't balance himself on the roof of a house where he played as a child, that he was going to fall from there, and he wasn't a heavy drinking man, so he surely wasn't up there drunk. So I think Monroe Trotter was mysteriously killed. Of course, we know about Martin Luther King. So long as he was preaching peace and love, he was comparatively safe. And when he began to talk about poor people's marches and the unification of the black poor and the white poor, he had projected himself into the cross currents of power and conflict and the invisible empire of high finance and power, and decided that he had to go. And you can see this pattern repeating itself over and over again. Now, the most tragic display of this pattern is in local black leadership that never gets into the newspaper. I mean, in small towns, and blacks protesting, and sometimes they're killed by the hands of blacks, but it doesn't matter whose hands killed them, who ordered the killing is what is really important. It really doesn't matter whether the Jews killed Christ. The main thing is that Roman colonialism dominated the area, and if the Roman colonialists didn't want him killed, they could have stopped it by the wave of a hand. And so the Romans are more guilty if anybody is guilty at all. And see, I'm saying that it doesn't matter if black hands killed Malcolm X. They obviously did. But black minds didn't order the murder of a Malcolm X. But this takes us too far from our subject. What we're trying to deal with is the pattern of murder of black leadership by the establishment that has been more than consistent for well over 100 years and will remain so until there's enough political and physical power in the black community to tell that establishment that this man, my spokesman, will not be sacrificed.
What kind of leadership can we expect to see in the future?
We expect to see several types of leadership, but because most black organizations have fallen apart on the basis of poor administration, I think what we really need are less charismatic leaders and more astute administrators who can hold the pieces together and keep the money from being dissipated and keep the programs functioning and keep the promise to the people. I think the next kind of leader we need might be the type who is, well, ego-satisfied to the point of not needing the public vow and hurrah, and who would keep things together and who can be relatively obscure. That's the kind we need, and I think it's the kind we're going to get in some cases. We're still going to get the share of daddy-o hustler leaders, but I think the people are more and more owned to them than ever because of the absolute con game they ran in the anti-poverty programs, and they're still running to some extent in model cities. I think blacks are beginning to make a reassessment of this fast-talking, very articulate con man. And I think he's going to see him coming in the future and going to recognize more sincerity in people. I think the games as black people over leadership may be over. And I think it's over because they have awakened to the point of saying it's over.
Where are blacks headed now politically?
I think black people are at the crossroads politically, educationally, socially, and everything else. I think we are regrouping and looking for whole new directions. I think we're at a period when the charismatic leader may be over. We might be thinking over what caliber of leader we need in this next move forward. I think we're looking nationally and internationally. And I think we are beginning to catch on to the kinds of games that are being played on us, both nationally and internationally. And I think we are losing our fascination for the so-called American dream because we're realizing that the dream wasn't dreamed for us and the promise wasn't made to us.